let's talk about tax law. Vincent and I are doing this. So what we're going to tackle today is two subjects. We did this last year. It may seem like deja vu. Secure Act 2.0. Well, they've done more with it, and so we're going to tell you what the changes are. Most of them are pretty good and pretty helpful. And then we're going to talk about the current and future estate taxes. So off we go. In terms of the Secure Act, this is an overview slide. The IRS clarified things again. That says 2022. It should say 2023. And one of the things is the effect on beneficiaries, how fast do they have to withdraw money out of an IRA that you've left them. There are changes to the start age for required minimum distributions. That affects you, every one of you in this audience. There are higher contribution catch-up limits, and we'll go through what those are. And then there's a new spousal election. It's a kind of a different kind of rollover. It's really great. Again, another improvement to help things for a surviving spouse. So what is that change that the IRS made to how fast a beneficiary has to pull money out? You may remember from last year that they changed the rule from use life expectancy of your beneficiary, your child, to now use just what's called the 10-year rule. Pretty much everybody gets the 10-year rule. There are a few exceptions. We went over those last year, but just think about it as a 10-year rule. And what happened is they decided that if the person that's leaving the money has already reached their required date to start taking required minimum distributions, and that person dies and leaves an IRA, yes, that beneficiary still has 10 years to pull it out. But it used to be that you could wait until the last day of the 10th year and pull it out any time during that 10-year time period. But if you're a parent, if you're the person that's left the money and you've started your required minimum distributions, then your beneficiary has to start taking required minimum distributions each year during those 10 years based on their single life expectancy. And then they're not going to pull it out fast enough. They'll get to the 10th year and they'll have quite a bit. So that requires some planning and some work to make sure that your beneficiary doesn't pay too much in taxes. So the IRS has said this all can start in 2024 because they left us so confused that people who got these IRAs subject to the 10-year rule in 2021, 2022, 2023, often didn't start taking any required minimum distributions at all because they thought they could wait during the 10 years to the last day if they wanted to. So the IRS is not going to clamp down on anybody who failed to take their required minimum distributions if they inherited an IRA from mom or dad.
So another change that's gotten a bit friendlier is they're starting to push back the age at which the distributions need to start. As you see from the slide, it's been 72, it's 73 this year. It's going to stay there for a little bit and then push back to 75. So again, a little bit more of a grace period before people need to have these rules entirely figured out. Yes?
Is your mic on?
Oh, okay. Yeah. All right. Well,
ouch!
Oh, I see. Okay, then I'll maybe go over there and just talk louder. Okay, so on the next slide now? Yeah. So in terms of just more general rules for not so much estate planning, but for retirement and savings. So currently, the catch-up limit, previously the catch-up limit was $6,500 per year for people age 50. They're still stuck with that, but Secure Act 2.0 for people aged between 60 and 63, it's gone up to $10,000. So there's just a little bit more of an opportunity to catch up with people rather than saving at the rate they hope to. So, next slide.
You want to say the effective date?
Yeah, sorry, that starts at, I thought that was 2023, but you caught me. It is 2025 now.
Okay.
And then, so just moving on to estate tax, it's currently at...
Oh, no, you missed a slide.
Did I?
It's me.
Oh, I did. I did your slide.
Whose slide is it? I'll do it.
We swapped this one. You can
Okay,
do it.
all right. So some of you may know, if you don't take your required minimum distribution, there's a nasty excise tax, a 50% penalty. And the IRS has gotten a little nicer. So now the excise tax is dropped to 25%. And then they have a whole series of, if you didn't get caught rules, it drops to 10%. So if you mailed in if you sent yours in before they mailed you the notice of deficiency, then you didn't get caught. If you did it before the actual 25% tax was assessed, you didn't get caught and you get to use 10%. And then if you get your money in before the end of the third calendar year when the tax was due and you hadn't gotten a notice or anything like that, again, you're safe. It's 10%. And this is effective starting in 2023. So this is the nice thing about a surviving spouse, a nice rule for surviving spouses. Now, those of you who married somebody younger than you, and if your younger spouse dies first and leaves you their IRA, you already had two different options. You could do a spousal rollover. That's the most common thing. And what that meant was you would, as the surviving spouse, you would take your spouse's IRA and they would pretend that you were the participant, you were the person that opened that IRA, and you'd use your life expectancy and use the uniform table based on your life. Or you could take it as an inherited IRA, and again, use your life expectancy to pull the money out. The first option, the rollover, you'll pull it out more slowly. The second option, at least you get to use life expectancy. Here's the new third option, and by the way, this new, the 2.0 Act is called the EARN Act. They had some acronym for that. I don't remember what it is. But now, so I'm now a younger spouse, and if I roll over, I don't want to have to take money out over my own life expectancy if I can use my younger spouse's ghost life expectancy. So now that's what they permit. They pretend that that your spouse is still the owner of the plan, and you can pull the money out a little more slowly. Pretty nice deal.
So on the estate tax, most of this has been the same for the last few years. The exemption was increased to $10 million in 2018. That's kept track with inflation, so now it's up to about $13 million. Well, almost $13 million, and then it'll be actually 13.5 next year. One of the new changes is that we've gotten clarification from the IRS that, at least for transferred exemptions, if the law sunsets in 2026, there's not going to be any clawback. The transferred exemption will remain the same amount, even if the exemption goes back down to $6 million or $6 million adjusted for inflation for 2026. Next slide. So we are anticipating that there will be some negotiations before 2026, and so it isn't just going to sunset back to 2017 era exemptions. We're always looking for tea leaves in any kind of tax negotiations that are happening in Congress. Even if they don't pass, we assume that they'll be some of the first things that come up in negotiations in anticipation of the cliff. So we are looking at modifications to the grantor trust rules and in terms of when the gifts are complete. Same thing with they were looking at going back to the rules for before the law was changed, but still no action. And then same thing with, as always, they're discussing changing the rules for step up in basis. It hasn't happened yet, due to some opposition on it, but it's again another thing that will be negotiated, we expect, in the next few years. I think you had this one, Mark. I think we
Okay. So the gift tax and the estate tax are really the same tax. A gift tax is imposed on a transfer from you to somebody else during your lifetime, and then the estate tax is the transfer is made at death. So the gift tax rules, the annual exclusion right now in 2023 is $17,000 per person per year. In 2024, it's going to jump up to $18,000. You remember a couple of years ago, it just seemed to be stuck at $15,000 per year. So people also don't remember what happens if you make a gift that exceeds the annual exclusion amount to one of your kids during the year. And that is that the tax, you'll owe a tax, you don't owe the tax, you'll have to report the fact that you've gone over and start using up your lifetime exemption of currently $12,920,000. So it's just a filing requirement that occurs when you exceed the gift tax exemption. And you have to, when you're married, you have to think about this. The two of you can each give $17,000. And then if your son or daughter is married to a nice person, then you can go ahead and make a gift to both. And so you end up getting 4 times the amount. So, there's some leverage that's available there. That is our tax law update, and now we're turning the matter over to Stacy.